You said what everyone was thinking. Like, oh, they're gonna say furry.
Not everyone.
They're gonna say furry.
They're gonna say it. It's coming.
They said it.
Interrupt your regularly scheduled program for a special news bulletin from our partners in the Twisted World.
We interrupt your regularly scheduled program for a special news bulletin from Twisted World.
So happy Halloween month. We got 2 more weeks. Anybody confirm what they're dressing up as yet?
It's ever changing. I think originally the whole family was going to be skeletons, and they may still be skeletons, but we bought a bunch of skeleton suits off Amazon, and they came. And I'll just tell you, I ain't got the body for a skeleton suit.
Like the skeleton guys in Karate Kid. Is it like those?
Kind of. Yeah.
Like
kind of. So I think we're gonna try. It may change, but we're gonna try to find some more like the pajamas, with with a hoodie and a zip up kind of thing, because they're more comfortable. But even
cool.
like buying 2 sizes bigger because we wanted them to be baggy kind of all the kids, they still come out looking like a leotard kind of thing, and I'm just. Your boy can't be showing that much off to the world.
I feel you. I'm right there with you.
It wasn't pleasant. But anyways, yeah. So that's the plan right now, is that all of us are going to be skeletons. That was what the kids wanted to do this year. So,
are you dressing up, Cody?
I mean, I did spend quite a bit of money on a lightsaber when I was in Disneyland last year. So I feel like it would be remiss if I did not dress up.
You're going to be dressing up for the next 10 years at least. So
yeah,
we'll get some practice.
So I'll just get a little cloth.
What color light? Like little cloth. little.
Did you go for the one,
color?
The $140 one? Did you build your own?
No, I bought Obi-Wan's.
Oh,
no way! Sick.
Yeah, it's freaking tight.
So my story with the lightsaber is we go to Disneyland for Bailey's birthday, her 10th birthday, and I tell her let's go look at the lightsabers. And I'm not talking about the little plastic ones. Let's go look at the real lightsabers. And they're behind a counter, and these are the ones that are already built. You can spend the $250 and have the experience of building your own. But I was like, let's just look at what they got. And she really, really, really wanted Rey's from the newer version, of course, because that's the generation she's watched. But man, they pull this thing out. It's got weight to it, and I don't know if yours is like that, Cody. But they're they're heavy.
It's the real deal.
It's the real deal.
Yep.
And I'm holding this thing in my hand, and she's like, "Yeah, go ahead and push the button." So I let Bailey push the button, and I was disappointed. And because I don't know if anybody knows, but Rey's lightsaber at the end of the movie is revealed at what color? Do you guys remember?
No.
Green.
It's yellow. It's the first yellow lightsaber, right? And so I'm expecting it to be a bright yellow, and it comes out and it's kind of like a mucus green. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to spend $150 or $180 on a lightsaber that's not accurate. So I was all disappointed because the color did not look anything like the yellow that it should have been. So it was a bummer, but at the same time. So anyway, she said, anyways, we get to the end. She's like, this is cool, but I probably won't use it. Let's go build a robot. So we went and built one of the, you get to build the BB or the R2D2 style robots.
That's cool.
It's really cool. You walk in and there's a conveyor belt with all the parts, and you basically take the parts together and you build a robot that's remote controlled. And so she built a BB. It's red and black with a silver head, or red. Sorry, it's black and silver on the bottom, but it's got a red head, and it moves around just like the one in the movies. It's super cool. She doesn't play with it as much as I thought she would, but at the end of the day, it was more about the experience. And I got to nerd out because it was really cool to be in there and get to pick those things up off the conveyor belt and then put it all together yourself. So, anyways, a little fun Disneyland Star Wars story, but. Yep, that's what we're doing this year. So right now it's skeletons, but I think the kids are leaning more towards themed family dress up, which I'm fine with. I like the idea of dressing up themed. I was trying to convince them all in to blow up dinosaurs, but that didn't go very far. Could you just imagine a family full of blow up dinosaurs?
Yeah.
It'd be great. It'd be great.
You'd have been would you have been T-Rex? Little arms, big legs.
Yeah, well, what I would do is make the kids be something like a Stegosaurus or a whatever, something that a T-Rex would eat, and then I would just chase them around. It'd be great.
Oh, Julie be a raptor?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
Probably the
that'd
one
be
with the not the raptor, but the one that has like the things that gills that come out or whatever it is, the fins, and they spit, the spitters.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah.
kind of. I'm assuming it's a raptor, but I don't know. They're cool.
I forget what they're
But
called. Yeah,
there's some really
They, like,
funny
spit
ones
poison.
out there. I know we're like way off track, but Halloween, month. There's some really
Yeah.
funny ones out there where it looks like you're riding a raptor, and the legs kind of float. But when you put it on, so I don't know, like 4 years ago, we were walking around, in the Vacaville area. My kids wanted me to dress up something unicorn. Right. So I found one where it looked like it was a blow up suit that you put on with like coveralls or overalls. And it looks like I'm riding a unicorn. And so that was kind of the same thing that they have it now with like a velociraptor where it looks like you're like you can like run down the street and make it look like the raptor's running and you're just sitting on top of it. It's super cool.
Nice.
But what are we talking about this week?
Well, we are talking about witches. Like, I'll get you, my pretty.
Like what?
What was that again?
I'm not doing that again.
You can't make Wizard of Oz references. Cody won't know what that is.
What? Come on, bro. That's a classic. It came out way before we were born, too. Everybody knows what Wizard of Oz is.
I'm sure he knows references, but like, do you know the premise of the story?
Are you serious? Yeah, I know. I know what that movie is.
Making sure. Listen, every movie we've talked about on this show, you should know.
Yeah, I know. I'm familiar with Wizard of Oz.
Is that because it was in a video game?
Was it in a video game?
Wizard of Oz has been referenced in plenty of video games.
It's in WoW. It's in a car.
I'm sure there's references, yeah, but I thought you meant like it was like there's a video game of Wizard of Oz.
Oh, there might be. Who knows?
I'm sure there is.
It was probably like
who would want to play it?
Or like 5 people downloaded it.
Anyways,
$10,000 to make it.
So
I'm familiar.
Witches. We talked briefly. We didn't really go into detail, but we mentioned witches on I think it was the last podcast where we said that was
and
the
so
topic.
The one thing I want to break here is, and I mean, hopefully there's, I don't know, our listeners and what they practice and all that, but The Wizard of Oz was one of those first like movies that portrayed a quote unquote good witch. But witches are always known as, evil spells, raising dead, things like that. The ancient Greek stories of the three witches and the foretelling of what was his name? Zeus's half son or Perseus, that whole scenario. So, I mean, witches for thousands of years have always been seen as dark, evil, black magic, things of that nature, right? So that's kind of what we're going over, right? I don't really know. Listen, I'm not going to like say names or individual, like where their placement is and how close to me, but there are people that are quote unquote close to me that, they believe in some kind of like good witchcraft, I guess. They call it Wiccan.
Yeah.
I'm not sure you guys heard about this, but
yeah, I don't know who the person you're talking about is, but
yeah, I'm not going to go there. Energies like rocks, stones, stuff like that. Just weird stuff. And I apologize to our listeners if you guys like believe this stuff is legit, but I don't know. I only know witches to be evil. That's all I know.
Well, I mean, I did a little bit of research, and I'm sure you're going to dive into it more. But do you know where I was trying to find the origins, like the earliest acknowledgement of what someone would call a reference as a witch. Did you find that information when you were looking it up?
No, because I have some other instances I want to talk about that happened here in America.
Right. Okay. So the earliest instance of the reference of a witch, or at least the term witch, is the Bible. It is in 1 Samuel. It is estimated to be between 931 BC and 721 BC. So this is before Christ. King Saul, if you guys remember in that story, he seeks out the witch of Endor to summon the dead prophet Samuel, spirit, in order to go fight the Philistine army. So it's mentioned there. We even heard it this morning, and I think it was Exodus 20, where they talk about witchcraft in general. There's a part in the Bible where they talk about thou shalt not suffer a witch to live, where it basically says that, it's evil and it needs to go away. But the basic misconception, at least early on, this is where I think the good witch concept comes from, is they were just considered to be like natural healers, such as like wise women, right? They had a profession where they were healing people with natural methods, using whatever, and it was seen as somehow they had powers or an ability to do something that shouldn't have been able to be done. I think because of that misconception that we see later on, that it ties witches to pagans and the devil's work and that kind of stuff. Mainly because I think because of the hunts and the trials and the things you've seen over the years, that it drew them towards that. And the idea of summoning spirits, right? Like, I don't know that there's any goodness there in summoning spirits, right? The concept is you're trying to conjure up. Is it really Samuel that came back and talked about those things in the Word? I'm not here to speak on the Bible specifically. I'm just talking about the origins of witches. That's the very first that I could find. I did like a bunch of different web pages and looking at different research. The earliest reference to witches and witchcraft is in the Bible, which I thought was interesting. I did not know that. I thought it would have predated that, but that is the earliest. You're going to talk mainly about America, correct?
A couple instances, but let's talk about the first one, because I think either I referenced it or maybe Cody did. I don't remember. But we were talking about Salem Witch Trials.
I mentioned Salem because I said that I always wanted to go to Salem, Oregon, because that's what I had heard. Wanted to go see kind of what the town was about. In researching it today, I was kind of set straight. I'm wrong. It's not Salem, Oregon.
It's in the Northeast Massachusetts, one of the original colonies.
Do you know why though people assume it to be Salem, Oregon? I looked this up. Why do people think Salem, Oregon when they like Cody? Did you think when we talk about Salem, Oregon, you think of witches?
No, not at all.
Really?
I didn't know. I didn't even know that was a place. I didn't know Salem was in Oregon until you said it. I just kind of went with it.
There is a Salem, Oregon, yeah.
Huge. But if you go there, it is very.
It's
very dedicated to witchcraft. They have a lot of things that they play into the kind of like when we went to Roswell, right, with the spaceship crashing there concept. Then you go to the town and everything is aliens. When you go to Salem, Oregon, there's a lot that plays up the witchcraft, witch covens, that whole thing in Salem, Oregon. So it's not that I just misrepresented the wrong town and that it's actually another town. It's like when you go there, you're thinking witches. They have like a witches festival and stuff out there. So it actually ties back to Hocus Pocus, the original movie. The original movie in that story, the kid, and it's been so long since I've watched it, but I was like looking up kind of where the origin of people thinking Salem, Oregon is witchcraft. That movie became so popular that the town ended up investing into the marketing of it, because the story is the kid is told that witches were burned at the stake at trial in Salem. The kid doesn't believe it, whatever, and he ends up accidentally by lighting, I guess it's the black candle or whatever. He lights a candle and releases the three witches in
the black candle
in the movie. But that is all. That movie is based in Salem, Oregon. And so that's where the tie is. And so the town ended up, I was reading this a little bit ago, but the town ended up spending money and playing into that because of the popularity of that movie, right? So, and the second one just came out. I'm sure the town's doing a bunch of other things. So when I was a kid, we used to drive up to Oregon all the time. I remember driving through Salem thinking, oh, this is where that happened, right? And so I was corrected. I was wrong. And that's one of the most notorious. I don't know that it's the earliest in the United States, but it is one of the most notorious, which was Salem, Massachusetts, which was the witch trials there. As far as the big, it happened here later than it happened in Europe. So Europe had a big wave of witchcraft or witches trials and burnings at the stake before it happened here in the United States, because we started to have famines. I don't remember we had a disease going around, but there were certain things that they always attributed back to witchcraft. Smallpox, that's what it was. It was during like the French and British wars and those types of things in Europe, smallpox. It was during the time where they were worried about Native American tribes attacking. And so the atmosphere was like this place where there was always something going on, and they essentially needed something or someone to blame. And so I think that's where you started seeing the Salem Witch Trials, which I think was around the late 1600s or almost to the 1700s.
Yeah. And I mean, to kind of, I guess, cap up what transpired, I guess it was 3 women. And it started with some, like one of them was making weird sounds and contortioning. And I mean, they ended up over time. I mean, this is how it started, but over time, over the course of almost 2 years, that like 20 people, 200 people or so, something around there were accused, and 20 were executed. One of them did say while she was on trial, or so it was construed, but I'm not really sure what that means. I mean, you either said this or you didn't. Again, who knows? History could have been made, but Tituba, I guess it's her name, said that the devil came to me and bid me serve him. And she described elaborate images of black dogs, red cats, yellow birds, and a black man who wanted her to sign his book.
Wow.
She said she admitted that she signed the book and said there were several other witches looking to destroy the Puritans. All 3 women, of course, at that point were then put into jail, and that began the trial. But it started, I guess, with a reverend's daughter who was 9 years old, and his niece, 11. They started having fits. They screamed, threw things, uttered peculiar sounds, and contorted themselves into strange positions. A local doctor, of course, blamed the supernatural. Of course, medicine wasn't really primed to what it is today. It could have been, I don't know, a million different things.
It says here that Tituba was a slave of the 9-year-old's daughter or father. So the 9-year-old that got sick, this was a servant slave that they had. And so that is where she confessed to being a witch and basically started accusing others of using black magic. Interesting as we go into this, but like it says, June 10th, Bridget Bishop became the first accused of to be a witch and to be put to death in the witch trials. There were 150 people accused, but only 18 put to death. And I say only 18 as in like only 18 of 150, but that's a lot of people to kill because you believe them to be witches.
So there was another little girl.
Better safe than sorry.
But we got to make sure. Just burn them. Just burn them.
And I'll say this: that as I'm reading this, and I kind of always had the feeling, but when we think of witches, the first thing that comes to mind is women, right? The witch and the coven and the whole thing. But of the 18 that were put to death, 6 of them were men, and they were considered to be witches as well.
No, that's just sloppy.
That's bad detective work.
Yeah, that's just bad detective work.
That can't be right.
They didn't even check.
Would they be witches or would they be wizards?
Oh, they'd totally be wizards.
They'd totally be wizards, right?
Well, I mean, warlocks.
Warlocks, right? That's what I thought.
We go. Probably warlock. Yeah, that makes more sense. Sense.
The male witch.
But like warlocks have to like deal with more like necromancy than anything, I think.
Yeah. Well, okay. So we're going to go probably a little bit more into
magic,
it. So
right?
Part of the reason why this topic is so interesting, and they do have black magic, and that was the argument back in Salem Witch Trials, was the playing with black magic, right? The playing with evil, the unseen, spiritual, darkness, that kind of thing. So yes, warlocks would play into that. And I lost my train of thought on where I was going, but the bigger thing to play into this is taking a step back. We've had some other topics this month, right? We've talked about Frankenstein and zombies, and we've talked about, werewolves and lichens. I would say witches are the ones that I wouldn't say closest to home, but probably the closest to reality, because, I mean, even today, I've known individuals or been near individuals that claim themselves to be witches, or that practice witchcraft, right? So it is something, regardless if you believe it to be real or not, playing with that type of thing, it does happen in today's world. And so I think witches aren't something that I would say are plausible or fake or deny it, whatever. Maybe to the extent that we imagine the powers that they actually have, but it goes further into that, where we start to see things like people. There is a very huge tie in witchcraft to the devil and Satanism and talking to spirits and that kind of thing. So necromancy is the idea of raising the dead, right? Bringing the dead back. But
demons,
essentially, the lines aren't all that blurred between the two, to where, yes, a good argument there would be that they don't know if they have the ability to, but they practice the ability to bring the dead back to life, to in spiritual form or demonic form or possession, on top of using that black magic to do what could be perceived as evil or even good at times, right? Because there's plenty of times where people are doing things that wouldn't necessarily be seen for the bad, but using an evil method to get to a good result only for evil intentions. If that makes any sense,
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
And one of the three girls, I mean, just to tie it into like the Caribbean, Tituba, she was from the Caribbean. I guess she was a slave from the Caribbean. And, in the Caribbean, you've got islands that practice like voodoo, and hoodoo, right? And they say hoodoo's the good, voodoo's the bad, right? The good magic and the bad magic. So, and even today in, say, New Orleans, there's people there that believe they have the ability to, practice this stuff.
Aren't voodoos, I mean, in theory, and I've never really thought about it until we're talking about it right now, but aren't voodoos just witches in a sense? Like shamans, same concept, right? We got shamans, you got voodoos, you got witches. They're just the version of whatever that culture, that environment has. I would assume that's where that kind of concept comes from, is just dabbling in magic in places that you shouldn't, right?
Yeah, magic has flavor. Every flavor is different.
Right.
It has
right.
flavor.
So I think
Like
when we say witches, we're thinking more from the West, right? I think from Europe and the United States, North America, that's kind of our flavor of black magic, witchcraft, demonic to a sense. I don't know that I would say, that it's always represented with demonic, but voodoo being that same kind of concept from the Caribbean islands, Louisiana, that kind of stuff. Interesting. I mean, I never really tied all those together, but essentially they're one and the same.
Yeah, just right? different.
Because Native Americans had a version of that too, right? Where they were the spiritual person of the camp or the shaman or whatever you want to call them, but they had someone that kind of did things in that same kind of method, but they were revered, not feared, right?
Yeah.
So in our culture,
they were dipping into that peyote, so
we treated them as
out of the spiritual realm.
Correct. I think they all do.
Yeah.
Right. And
yeah.
I think because of our lineage being founded in Christianity and in God, we look at that type of thing playing with the dark side where you start to have spirits being, pulled in or those types of things, inviting that kind of thing in as acts of evil. Rather than the other side of things for like Native Americans or those that practice voodoo or shamans in general, it's almost revered. Where I think I said that already, but revered in the sense that it was looked to. I mean, we were watching that show. What was the show where the Vikings and they had that guy that lived in the camp that was the seer, right?
Yeah.
The same concept, kind of dabbling in a spiritual kind of whatever realm to forecast prophecies, regardless if it was true or not.
And then the Greeks had gypsy magic, right?
Right.
I mean, that's. So, ever seen that movie Thinner?
Maybe. I don't remember the name. It doesn't sound familiar to me. Dude,
like he hits like these gypsy in this town, and he hits one of them with his car, and they put a curse on him, and every day he loses like mass. He was big, heavy set guy, and every day he's like getting on the scale, and he's been trying to diet. Now he's losing weight, and he's like, yeah, but then he ends up losing way too much, like over a rapid period of time. Anyways,
interesting.
Great gypsy magic. Like if I can get some of that, and then they stop, that would be fantastic. You're like, wow. Hey, here's 40 pounds gone.
Is there a way to shut it on and off?
I don't know. I mean, you gotta find a gypsy. What do you call them? Gypsy wizard?
Just gypsies.
Just gypsies. I don't know.
They all practice the magic. God, that's cool. Let me find it.
I mean, when they say the word gypsy, that's exactly what I think of. I'm like, oh, you practice magic.
Well, I'm down.
Okay, so let me kind of diverge a little bit. When we think of gypsies and voodoo and those types of things, do you guys tie those? I'm not talking witches, but do you guys tie those to a religion? Do you believe that to be like a religious thing, or do you believe it to be?
Only probably because they do. I know that that's how it's mentioned in a lot of things. It's that they're.
If you consider paganism religion, then yeah.
Well, yeah. But I mean, witches, at least in the States and Canada and Europe, they have a practice. It's Wicca. Wicca is their religion, right? So I'm, they're Wiccans essentially is how you would say it, but they
worship nature basically, right? Is that my understanding?
apparently, yeah.
They're
So it's the idea that they avoid evil,
Druids, they shapeshift.
the appearance of evil at all costs, right? So I don't know how
shapeshift into furries.
They can if they're close enough to the nature.
Why?
Hey, good job with the furry reference, though. That was great.
Oh God!
It was going to be found. It was going to be found.
It was
somewhere.
right there. You found it. You said what everyone was thinking. Like, oh, they're going to say furry.
Not everyone.
They're going to say furry.
They're going to say it. It's coming.
They said it.
Oh man!
I mean, it's whatever. They turn themselves into squirrels. It's great.
Sassy squirrels.
But I don't. Back to the religious question. I mean, I don't know. I mean, do you? If you're going to tie this in, there are churches that exist in the state of California. I don't know. I'm sure they exist elsewhere too. That literally worship the devil, right?
Right.
And so these particular practices of witchcraft and black magic and all that. I mean, they're worshiping something. So in their eyes, I'm sure they see it as a religion to them, right?
Well,
it's their way of life.
Think about it. Ouija boards, the idea of putting the star on the floor,
Did you guys ever
summoning
play with one of those?
No,
a Luigi board.
Nope.
Yeah, don't do that.
It's stupid. Mainly, here's why I think it's stupid.
I only could afford a Mario board. Couldn't get my hands on a Luigi board.
Every time.
Spin it. It's like, it's a me.
It's a me.
I'd ask him to stop coming, but people like him. I don't get it.
I know, it's great.
I'd be like, hey, Cody, it's not working out. But the reality is, like, I think more people want Cody and less of me.
Bro. They say laughter is good for the soul, and it like gives you life. It gives you years onto your life, man. And I'm telling you, after every podcast, I feel like 5 more years coming back. It's great.
You're gonna live forever.
I end every podcast with a headache. I don't know what's going on here. I'm over here questioning life. Is it plausible? I don't know. Maybe it's possible. I don't know. Good.
Oh man, is it plausible that the witches in the Salem Witch Trial were really shape-shifting into furries? We never would know. I don't know.
They were shape-shifting into wolves.
They might not have been doing it a lot, but the potential's there. Like, we have all the facts. Like, can they shapeshift? Probably. We just don't know what exactly they were shapeshifting.
Do they shapeshift though? Because everything I've ever heard for witches is that they shapeshift other people, that they turned or cursed other people into things. I've never heard
they turn into cats all the time. Have you seen Harry Potter?
Oh my God.
Oh, right.
I mean, you're not wrong. Harry Potter was pretty good.
Cats,
pretty good.
Stuff like that,
Yeah, Professor McGonagall, she turned into a cat.
Yep.
She did. Sure did. Witchcraft. There we go.
I'm just bringing the facts up in here.
Didn't somebody get turned to a frog in Harry Potter? Neville?
No, but Neville's rat was a bad dude. Was that one guy? Remember?
Right.
His rat. So he turned into a rat. There you go. Turned himself into a rat to hide.
I don't know. To me, it's all. I don't want to say weird as in like I'm condemning anyone. It's too close to. To me, the idea of outside of paganism and that whole thing, the idea of summoning or bringing evil into or feeling into spirit, like I believe in the spiritual realm, right? I think anybody that's a believer does, like right? And I do think that there are good, and I do think that there are evil in that, but I don't know that we should ever be in a place to where we are inviting the spiritual realm in.
Nah. And if people want to go out and hug trees, do their thing. But the second they start invoking evil spirits, I mean,
right, well, to some extent, right? The hug trees is fine, and
that's what Wiccan is, right? We love trees.
More, yes. I mean, they do potions for herbal remedies to try to help people, and yeah, sure.
Right? Too. It's called marijuana. I mean, I'm just saying.
The idea about Wiccans is the idea that it's not about evil. It's to avoid evil and the appearance of evil at all costs. I think I said that earlier on, but that's their modem. It's like to harm none, right? So they're really trying to change the concept of what a witch is. Which, listen, I don't know that it needs to be changed, but if somebody wants to go out of their way to do this because they want to change the representation of it, as long as spiritual stuff is left out of it, and it is really just about healing people. Like I don't know that. I don't want to. It just doesn't feel.
Well, then
right
they
to
just be
me.
doctors at that point. That's no fun.
Essentially, yeah. But these are people that are probably not
We already
practicing
have
medicine.
doctors.
Not practicing medicine. Like
We need more shamans.
Well, my question is like, okay, so you have
Need
that
more
crystal.
shamans.
We were just talking about this the other day, like the crystal spiritual therapy, right? Where they're like, they believe that crystals give them certain feelings, or they have a spirit animal or fruit or whatever. Like, people grasp at straws. Let's be real, right? All that to me comes across as, and I don't care if someone's listening and they get offended by it, but all it comes across as is somebody that doesn't have the answer and is seeking for an answer. Because, I mean, really, what, like, I don't care what my spiritual animal is. Really? Like, what does that do for me? And then, like,
You can unlock
people
the
would wear
chakra of your animal,
Stop.
and then
And
become.
do what?
And like you can invoke the powers of that animal. Like, okay, like, so let's say your spirit animal is a cheetah, and you unlock the chakra of the cheetah, like in Naruto, and then you can run faster because of it, and because you've honed in your chakra on your spirit animal, the cheetah. You can be aspect of the cheetah and then be faster. You know?
Oh my god, no, I don't.
Well, I'm
know.
explaining it to you.
Yeah, that's dumb.
I'm explaining.
It's dumb. I don't know if it's just people like deliberately trying to be resistant to kind of. I don't even. To me, there's no logic behind it all. There's no logic behind the idea of believing and practice. Listen, you want to practice medicine, so be it. If you want to practice natural medicine, where you believe that there are potions and herbal remedies that can help someone, I think that same can be said that there are ones that could also harm those people, right? We know poisons and stuff like that can cause damage, but to do it for, I don't know that I would call myself a witch if I was helping people.
Yeah, you're just a doctor.
You're just a, or you're just a, I don't even like the concept of a healer, but you're just someone that practices natural medicine. You don't have to be a doctor to practice natural medicine. There are plenty of companies and people out there that do natural remedies that are not doctors. Essentially, you're a doctor in the loose terms of it. You've not been to school.
Really simplified doctor is what you are.
Correct.
You're just like real doctors are just doing complex potions in pill form.
Right. We're
just better potions.
Well, it's like that reference of like being a botanist over a farmer, right? They're both essentially checking and understanding how plants work, but one does it in a different way, and the other one does it through research, studying, and science. The only difference is I don't know. It's just weird.
Get the job done.
Do they?
Sure, they do.
Do they?
They have their place.
I don't know, man. You hang crystals around my neck, it ain't gonna make me feel better.
If you don't believe in them, then no. But if you do
that's
believe
a placebo,
in them,
though.
then yes.
Then that theory, I can believe anything.
I mean, you put a rock on you put a rock on a girl's finger and she feels better. It's amazing, right?
But my question is that really medicine, or is that the psychological side of us,
Always.
right? The psychological, which is the part the point I'm trying to make here.
No, you're giving power to the rock.
Right, but people are searching for an answer to things, and they're willing to believe whatever to get some kind of placebo effect from it. The reality is that if we just continuously grasp at this is how these things get weirder and weirder. Anyways, I digress. The point in all this is that this is probably the one that is closest to home, and the reality is that we live it today. And maybe not to the sense that we're doing Salem Witch Trials again, or we have that kind of fear. If anything, when I talked about the other cultures starting to accept that thing, I think we have now come to a day where we have partially started to accept it. Right, Wiccan and natural medicines and spiritual healers or palm readers. Right, we're starting to believe, and I'm kind of throwing psychics in there, but that's not really. I don't know that I would call a psychic a witch. Maybe it is, but it's the idea that we are now getting to a place where some or a good portion of our society today, at least in the West world, is starting to accept it, like they did early on with voodoos and shamans. That sucks. I don't know that it sucks. It's just weird.
Yeah. And I mean, and it's like Wiccan's getting bigger and bigger. Again, I don't understand it. I'm not going to speak on it because I don't understand it. I'm not really sure, but few people have mentioned it before, and I'm just like, so witchcraft? And they're like, well, it's not like that. it's about nature and energy and all this. I'm like, so witchcraft.
Well, they're still being persecuted, right? I mean, the idea, like I was looking this up, like, are witches still persecuted today? Papua New Guinea, as of 2010, there were several men and women that were accused of witchcraft and beaten and killed. Right. So in pagan 2010,
wow,
2010, we're talking 12 years ago. So the idea is it is still, yes. Oh my God. He said men. It's still happening in certain parts of the world that aren't, that probably haven't progressed. Right. So you still have that theory. There's still fear. There's still that wrapped around it. I mean, I don't really encourage my kids to watch anything related to witchcraft. Right. I'm a huge Harry Potter fan. My kids will wait until they're a little older to where they understand that none of that stuff is real. I think the idea of conjuring spirits, talking to spirits, inviting spirits in, dealing with, the spiritual realm in general, or pulling from the devil or evil, are all things that are real. I firmly believe that. And so for me, it's more or less of, I want my kids to be educated on it, on what to see and how it's perceived, so that when they do engage it, or at least have to be around it or see it or watch it or experience it, that they understand, where to go or how to perceive that, rather than just opening them up to it. Because I think that's what's wrong with witches in general, is the inviting of something in. You're opening yourself up to whatever's out there to come into you. And if I reference the Bible again, plenty of times in the Bible, we see where, someone opened themselves up and they're taken over by legions, or they're taken over by possession, or they're taken over by something like that that's very evil. And that's always been my thing. Is it's not that I'm fearful for my kids watching scary movies, because I loved scary movies as a kid. Probably shouldn't have watched some of the scary movies that I did, but is protecting them to a place where they're educated enough to understand what they're watching isn't real, before I let them watch that kind of stuff or be around that kind of stuff. So anyways, I think witches are weird and creepy. They're not green with a hat. I think it's funny that that's where the Wizard of Oz goes, that they're this green with a great big nose. They're just, from what I've always seen, is women. I'm shocked to see that they're still killing men. I mean, at this point, like,
I know, it's just sloppy.
Well, it's just sloppy, right?
It's just sloppy.
You don't,
bad craftsmanship.
Well, listen, like, normally the pimps don't get killed.
Oh my God.
That was too much. That was too far. I was trying to Cody joke. It didn't work out. I regret it. I regret it instantly once I said it.
I want to bring up before we get too close to the end here, but have you guys heard about Roanoke?
Roanoke, no.
Yeah, you familiar with it? Nope. You are, Cody?
Yeah.
Nice. So it's a like small peninsula or island right off of the coast of what is now known as North Carolina. It was one of the first European colonies. And so the guy that led it was this guy named John White, and he takes like 110 or 120 colonists, and they land on the island. They set up this colony, and he heads back to England to get some supplies, and comes back with a new set of colonists and everything, and everybody is gone.
Yeah, he was gone for 3 years, and came back. Yeah. By the time he came back, there was no trace of the former inhabitants.
No, and carved into a tree was the word Croatoan, which is the name of a Native American tribe who supposedly believed that there were witches that lived up in the North Carolina mountains, and there was a lot of black magic and whatnot. But these people completely disappeared, not a trace.
Dude, I wonder how many. Does it say how many people were there? Like how many people?
Over 100. Over 100 settlers gone. Every single one of them gone.
Well.
So, so again, the Croatoans and other North American tribes had believed in legends of witches living in the North Carolina woods. in mountainous areas. And stories went on for a long time that Roanoke became the victim of these witches. And,
Wow.
And this is why they've never been found, right? Of course, there's a lot of other beliefs, but that's one. And since we're talking about witches, yes. So over 100 people, first settlement of Europeans into what is now known as North America, completely vanished. So, I mean, some other theories believe diseases and stuff, but that just wouldn't make sense. Where'd the bodies go?
For 3 years, the bodies wouldn't be gone. And I was reading it. I'm digging into it because I don't know anything about this. It's cool to hear about it. When you say just over 100, it was just over 100. The estimations were 90 men, 17 women, and 11 children. So this was mainly men. We're not talking like feeble. Oh, the men left to go back to England and they left them by themselves. 90 men.
Some of them probably, so you're probably some of them were
95
fighters.
to 98%.
Right?
98% of the people there were men and were probably able to fight, including the governor. He stayed. Gone. Interesting.
Still to this day, no traces. And it's still, I mean, there's, as of 3 or 4 years ago, they're still like digging into this, trying to figure out what could have happened. I mean, of course,
you can do a whole podcast on just this alone. There's like all kinds of theories on what happened.
Yeah, and that's why I don't want to go deep, because it would be a cool topic, because there's a lot of like just off the wall stuff in regards to Roanoke.
But one of the theories is witchcraft.
Witchcraft, yeah, that there were witches, and these Native American tribes firmly believed, and later spoke, saying, once they were able to communicate with each other and saying, hey, we're trying to tell you there's witches out in these woods doing black magic.
Wow. All right. Well, cool.
So who knows? But yeah, I don't want to go too much because it would be a fun topic.
Well, I know we normally end with plausible or not, but I don't know that we need to with this particular episode. I mainly because we know that witchcraft.
Because it's so obvious that it is.
Well, it is, right? It is. Well, I mean, think about it. Of all the topics we're going to talk about this month, because I think our last Halloween podcast is next week, if I recall. It may be the week after. I don't remember. But one of our next episodes is going to be about vampires, correct?
Vampires and Dracula, baby.
So we actually have 2 more episodes in the month of October. So maybe next week won't be about vampires. We'll have to figure out what that podcast is going to be about.
Next week's episode is the last one in October.
Nope. There's also the 30th. So next week is actually the 23rd, and then we have the 30th. So
that one's going to air. The episode won't air until
November.
Oh, that is correct. See what happens when I don't pay attention to dates? Very cool. That's all right.
Yes.
Good to know. But anyways,
so I want to ask a funny question though. You want to say something about vampires?
No, I just think that of all the topics that we're talking about, even though we know there's some history to where Dracula and that stuff came from, we're going to talk about that. This one is the one that has the most foundation. Yes, that has still kind of lived on until today, even if it's small in comparison to the stories.
It started with a real man.
Next week, yes.
So he's cool. He's got a lot of deep history and dark history behind him. A lot of crazy stuff happened.
He's just misunderstood.
I think so. I think Vlad, he impaled a few people. So what? But we'll talk about him later, right? So sure. I want to get you guys' thoughts on something. Okay, so we're talking about witchcraft before we close. And, of course, voodoo being a witchcraft. Okay. If you guys could do a voodoo witch doll. Is that what they're called? Voodoo witch doll?
Oh, wow.
A voodoo doll.
A voodoo doll.
A voodoo stitch doll.
Stitch doll.
Voodoo stitch doll.
It's a stitched doll that they make.
Yeah, it's like a little rag doll.
So if you guys could do a voodoo doll, would you do one, and who would it be? And you don't have to kill him, of course. Like, you can make him dance.
It'd be Cody.
No hesitation.
No hesitation. I'd try to make him behave. I don't know. How about like make him like more involved on the podcast rather than clicking and yawning?
That's pretty involved.
Yeah, sure.
Cody, would you do a voodoo doll?
It'd be Cody. It's weird though.
I think I'd do a voodoo doll, and I'd also choose me.
You make yourself do things like okay. What would you make yourself do? That's what I want to know.
Use it to counteract all of Andy's voodoo dolling of me.
Makes sense. That's a counter spell right there if I've ever seen one.
Wow.
I don't know. There's some cool things. Like,
notorious for that,
listen,
so,
if I made you into a voodoo doll and I threw you in the air, could you fly?
I think I don't know if that's how voodoo dolls work.
No.
Okay,
No,
maybe
I
you're
don't-
right. It's the
just about
impact that would
pain.
work,
Yeah.
right? So if I threw you in the air and you hit the ground, you would
Yeah,
feel
you'd
like you
feel
got
it.
smacked with concrete. Got it.
Right,
Okay.
right.
No, I should. I'd make you have some killer dance moves.
That's what I was thinking.
I'm just like, Cody
you
would
could make him dance.
I'd
like,
make
get-
him break
get
dance
jiggy
like
with
nothing
it.
else.
He's just sitting there. He's just sitting there hanging out with his wife, and all of a sudden he starts break dancing. Like,
What are you doing, honey?
like, I don't know.
I
like,
don't
why are you-
know, but
why
I
are you
just
spinning
feel
on your
like I
head?
need to move like this. As he's not laughing because he's like, you guys are morons. That's not how it works.
It's fun to think so, though, right?
What about you, Aaron? Was it just you were thinking about Cody too? See, I think we've got a trio going here. It's obvious.
What yeah.
My
Well, I
doll
mean, it's-
would break records of sales. It would just sell out the wazoo.
See, that's where I made the mistake. Is
Oh,
you
we
say
could
things
sell
like,
these
"I'm
things
going to
now
make
that
a
I'm thinking-
sweater."
Bro, we could market this. Yeah, because listen, people could have Cody do things while he's on the show, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like make him say more off the wall things than he already does.
This is going to turn into one of those like TikToks or Twitch where you basically pay a certain amount and it causes like the lights and stuff to go off. Cody's going to be on camera at some point in this podcast, and it's just going to be sirens and lights that come on in Cody's face to see how he reacts.
I mean,
I like this idea.
me too. As long as I have a steady income off of it, I'm okay with that.
Okay. Well, I know we're closing, but have you guys seen the ridiculousness that's out there? Like the guy's sleeping in the bed and you get to do whatever you want as long as you pay a certain price.
Oh yeah.
No, stop it.
Yeah.
No,
right
lie.
now.
You can go pay $20 and a siren will go off in his room or strobe lights will go off. It literally, he just gets in the bed and sleeps. I don't know if he's actually sleeping, but apparently he looks like he's sleeping. I've not actually participated in these. I saw this the other day and I thought, we have gotten dumb. But however, the guy that's doing this is not dumb because he's probably racking in the dough because he's playing into other people's, idiocracy. But we have gotten dumb as a society.
Gosh, that
Throwing
is
money
crazy.
to wake somebody up from sleep.
How does that even? There's somebody else on the other end with the button.
No,
or something?
you pay money and it triggers whatever amount it is. Will be that they'll have a sign in the background that has a bunch of like a scale of like how much money does what. Right. So like $5 does this, $1 does this. And when you pay it, it triggers and it's automated and it'll just happen while he's sleeping.
Yep.
Man, that's definitely witchcraft.
What?
All right.
I'm just.
Oh my
We all have our
God.
different opinions on what witchcraft is. It's very
Clearly.
it's very subjective.
It is. It is
It
very.
can really be
subjective.
whatever you want.
Yeah. For sure. Okay. Right before we sign off, though, everybody do their best witch hackle.
No, I'm not doing that. Come on.
Come on, Cody, do
No.
it. Cody, do it.
I mean, are you cheering for? Are you giving
Talk
me money
about,
for this?
like-
Are you donating for this? Like, is this like?
Yeah, I got $1 on it. Let's go.
No way, dude. I know my worth.
I got 5 on it. 5
I
on it.
know
Let's go.
it. I know
We've
what
already
I'm
heard
worth.
Aaron's. Aaron, just sign us out with your witch laugh.
No, he's been witch laughing the whole podcast. Have you heard him? See, there it is.
Instantly,
Anyways.
I'm gonna put a picture up of Aaron green with a hat on.
Yes, let's do that. Let's rock it. Anyway, happy Halloween month. Twisted fam, we love you. We're out.
Peace out.